Hello, Portland Bible College students. This is going to be airing in March of 2020, and this is for the Introduction to Missions course. And officially, according to your notes, this is Lesson 11, and the topic is Singleness, Cross-Cultural Marriage. And of course, this is in the segment on personal and family issues, and we are going to be covering singleness and also the very important topic of the possibility of marrying someone from a different culture. So go ahead and make sure that you're following along with the correct notes from this point. And any discussion on singleness and missionary work must emphasize that singleness is not somehow a less than ideal state for a missionary. And I would go ahead and add here that for some people, it is actually more ideal to be single. They will get a lot more done. Jesus was single, and single men and women carrying the gospel of the kingdom message to other cultures have been part of the history of the church since the days of Paul. You find that according to 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 7. Singleness applies to both genders. It can be male or female. In Protestant circles and even in Pentecostal or charismatic circles, especially from the 1800s on, far more single women than single men have populated the missionary ranks. Now, from my personal experience, I have been married as a missionary, but I have known many single missionaries. And one of the most powerful missionaries that I ever knew is a man in his retirement age now who was single literally his whole life, and he could have been married several times, but he had a grace on him, and he made a decision to stay single, and he had one of the most effective ministries that I have ever seen. However, for every man that I know who has been a single missionary, I probably personally know 4 or 5 ladies who are single missionaries, and some of them are still overseas even right now. All right, we're moving into the next segment. The significant presence of women in missions is what we're going to be talking about. Now, this is not to say that the presence of single males in missions is insignificant. It is. But since there are so many females that are single missionaries, we're going to talk about this for a while. In spite of the challenges women in many times and places have faced by following God's call in missions, they have followed him in numbers. And by 1910, more women than men were serving in missions. In the coming years, the numbers of women would continue to climb until women in some areas outnumbered the men by 2 to 1. Statistical studies on the topic are few, but one in the late 1980s, a survey of 19 mission agencies representing 20,333 missionaries showed that 56% of them were women, with unmarried women outnumbering unmarried men 6 to 1. I do believe that is a realistic statistic. A more recent report from 2002 found that some 54% of Southern Baptists, they have 5,241 missionaries. That's American Southern Baptists. Okay, 54% of them were women, about 1/4 of them single. About 1 out of 4 of the women on the field for the Southern Baptists at that time were single. Now, the Southern Baptists, I believe, are still, and they probably were at that time, the largest missionary sending agency in America, followed by the Assemblies of God. Okay, now in short-term missions, as well as in situations that are considered too dangerous to send families, including many areas with a Muslim majority, the foreign mission force is composed largely of workers who are single, and a majority of these laborers are women. Representatives of Frontiers, that is an agency, which works solely in the Muslim world, report that they are seeing women respond to the call in great numbers. In 2002, women comprised 75% of their short-term team applicants. Can you imagine? 75% of their short-term team missionary applicants are single females. Anecdotal evidence produces similar numbers. In a 2002 personal interview, a woman working with Operation Mobilization reported that of the 100 people working with her agency in one Asian country, 60 were women and 40 were men. And in ratios that seem fairly typical, these included 35 married couples, 25 single women, and 5 single men. That's pretty amazing. Colleagues currently studying in Yemen say the expatriate community in their city includes 26 couples, 2 single men, and 21 single women. That kind of blows those earlier statistics out of the water. We must conclude that women have a significant presence in the mission force, not that of a minority, but a majority. Another article stated that the ratio of single women to men on the mission field is approaching 10 to 1. And I would say it's not 10 to 1 yet, but it could get there someday if current trajectories hold steady and hold true. All right. As one can see from statistical evidence, women who are single are by far the majority of singles on the mission field. These statistics would bear out my personal experience in Laos. Now, the person who wrote these notes for you guys is a person who has done a lot of ministry in Laos and is currently there right now. There were always far more single women than men on the mission field, and that is also my personal experience in the Philippines. It was also my experience in Indonesia. It was also my experience in Singapore, the 3 places where I lived and served as a missionary. All right, the next section here is the advantage. And you're going to write this in. Number 1, Paul discusses this reality. Married people have to devote time and energy toward their relationship, while those who are not married are able to focus exclusively on extending God's kingdom. This is according to 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verses 32 to 35. Now, I'm not going to mention names. I'm not even going to mention the country, okay? But one of the countries that I have worked in extensively, I've never actually lived there, there was actually a vote as to who would be the general superintendent or the number 1 leader of a denomination. And the vote came down to the 2 most popular candidates. And the one that won the election was the one who was single, who had never been married, who never had children, and it was because the general population of that denominations, churches, and pastors and leaders felt that a single person could accomplish more. Okay, and that was the mentality in that country. Now, other countries might have the mentality like, hey, if you're not married, if you don't have kids, then you don't understand what the other pastors are going through, so they might have voted for the other guy. Okay, so it just really depends on the culture, really depends on the country. There are countries in the world, guys, where you literally are not allowed to be a pastor unless you are married, okay, because they feel like that is a big strength. But there are other countries in the world where to be single is really to be admired, because it means that you're so strong on God's call that you have decided to forego marriage in your life and to really be dedicated and devoted to the call of God. So it can go either way, depending on where you are. Single missionaries can be more productive simply because her or his entire life focus can be ministry, including language learning, preparation for teaching, spontaneous evangelism, etc. Number 2, you're going to write this in also. Singles tend to be more flexible in location and ministry assignment. To uproot a family is usually much more traumatic, okay? And that is true. We've talked about this in previous classes, guys. The number 1 reason why people leave the mission field, is because of family. And the number 1 reason when it comes to family would be because of children, okay? If your kids can't take it on the mission field, that is a big problem, okay? And so that is something that you do have to think about as you're preparing for missions. Make sure, guys, if you have the call of God to be a missionary, make sure that you do not marry somebody that does not also have the call of God to be a missionary. And make sure that when you do get married and when you do start having kids, make sure that you train your kids up to have a missions mindset so that they will be able to handle definitely the different experiences and the different attitudes that are required to be a successful missionary family. All right, singles can adjust to harsh conditions more quickly than whole families can. Note that no one should ever take advantage of this reality, as singles need stability also, okay? So, it's important as a single to realize that you are a person that is a family, okay? And you need to make sure that your needs are taken care of just like the needs of a family that has multiple members are too. Otherwise, you're going to burn out. All right, number 3, you're going to have to write this in as well. Singles have significantly less financial support to raise than married couples do, especially those with families. Guys, I can tell you, you can be a single missionary in many countries for less than $2,000 a month. But you can hardly be a family going out as missionaries anywhere, even in a cheap country, for $2,000 a month. Most families would need to raise more like $4,000 or $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000 a month, depending on the country where they're going. Some countries, guys, the schooling for your children alone is going to be $2,000 or $3,000 a month. So there are situations where the financial aspect is to be considered. Singles can get along with temporary furnishings that are impractical for a family. They can live out of a suitcase, but a family cannot. A bicycle often suffices for a single person, but a family usually has to have a car. So not only do singles spend less money on personal and household furnishings, they spend less time maintaining them. In short, singles can keep their lives uncluttered materially and mentally. This should make it easier to keep their lives emotionally uncluttered as well, okay? Now, guys, my parents, of course, had me and my brother, my younger brother, and so they were stable in one place as missionaries for a long time. But later, when they became empty nesters, they became missionaries that traveled full time. And I don't know exactly how many years it has been now. I think it is approaching 30 years or more. My parents have not had a home. They have lived out of a suitcase for well over 30 years, or one suitcase each. It's like this, guys. If somebody gives my dad a shirt as a gift, in order for him to fit it in his suitcase, he will then have to take one shirt out of his suitcase and get rid of it, okay? And that's how they have lived for more than 30 years as traveling itinerant missionaries. They could not do that with children. But that's another possibility, guys. Maybe you'll have a season where you raise a family, and then later on, your season will become more itinerant when it's just you and your spouse, okay? So there's different options there. Number 4, singles are able to spend more time developing close relationships with nationals in the community that they serve. And this is a big point, guys. The single missionaries that I know typically are more connected with the nationals in the national church in these countries. I don't really know why that is. Maybe it is because of the time restraint. Maybe it is because, for their social life, rather than going somewhere as a family, they do go with their friends who are from the national church, or even people that they are evangelizing in the communities that they are serving. All right, not having a spouse or children who need time and attention, singles are freer to intermingle with those that they serve. All right, let's move on to the next part. The challenge for single missionaries. Okay, we've talked about some of the benefits. Now we're talking about the challenges. Single missionaries, number 1, often receive less consideration in regard to housing and ministry assignments. Now, this all is very dependent on which denomination, which organization you are with. You know what, guys? There are organizations that they have housing that they provide for their missionaries. Well, for a family, they would end up with a pretty nice house. For a single, you might end up in a dormitory type situation. It just really depends on the group, okay? And even if you were a person that you go out and you pay for the housing, you choose the housing, they may not allow you the kind of budget as what you would have if you were married or if you had a wife or a husband and kids, okay? So these are considerations. Single missionaries must deal with loneliness and a what is wrong with you mentality, okay? Loneliness is a real thing. And if you are called to be single, then God will enable you to deal with that. But it is an irritation, especially in certain cultures, okay, where there are going to be people who think to themselves, if you're not married, obviously something is wrong with you, okay? If you're in one of those countries where that's a thing, and by the way, people even are that way in America sometimes, okay? If you're in one of those countries, you might be fielding that question or that attitude towards you weekly or even more than once a week. You might be fielding that attitude. You might be dealing with that attitude on a regular basis, and it will be an irritation, okay? All right, in many cultures, singleness is not thought of as a natural state. And guys, there are countries out there that not only do they not think of it as a unnatural state, but they might even think of you as being cursed if you're not married, okay? And that's wrong, but that is the attitude that many people have. And so you're gonna have to really think about that. And it may have something to do with where you go as a single missionary. Many other cultures think of singleness as strange, and they wonder why the single does not want or is unable to marry, okay? And I'm just going to go ahead and say this, guys. I have had many single missionary friends deal with people accusing of them being gay, all right? That is a very, very common thing. What's wrong with you? Why aren't you interested in girls? What's wrong with you? Don't you want to have a husband? By the way, are you attracted to other ladies? Are you attracted to other men? This is a very real thing, and it happens way more often than I can possibly even explain, okay? So it is something that people who are single are going to have to deal with, probably in our generation more than in previous generations. Fellow missionaries may unconsciously communicate this feeling as well. So you think you're all right, with your fellow missionaries, but they may give an air of it. They may give an undercurrent of it as well, especially when they are trying to match singles with other singles. Let's say that God has spoken to you that you're supposed to be a single missionary and there's a grace on your life to be single. Wouldn't that be kind of a weird thing to have other people always trying to match you up with somebody else? Maybe that's already happened in your life. That's kind of an irritation when that is not God's call, when that is not God's will for your life. And the person may be very, very well-meaning, and they may have a belief that it's God's call for everyone to be married. And they're trying to help you to step into what they think God's call is for your life. And they may be totally off and totally wrong. Number 3, guys, another one that you need to fill in. Single missionaries need special care to ensure that their relational needs are being met. Go ahead and touch your heart right now and just say with me, I have needs, okay? Now, that may sound carnal to you. That may sound weird to you. That may sound fleshly to you. But I want you guys to know every human has human needs, and it is important that you get those needs met in a proper way. Because if you don't get those needs met in a proper way, then you're going to be very tempted to get those needs met in an improper way, all right? Okay, care needs to be taken that fillers such as work, ministry, and hobbies are used as a substitute for the relationships that every human being needs, all right? Ponder that for a minute, but I'm going to move on to number 4. Singles must deal with unfulfilled sexuality. Okay, now this is something that I was surprised was in here the first time that I read it, but I'm glad that it's in here. Guys, every human being naturally has sexual needs. Okay, that is just reality. Okay, and you have to face that reality, and you have to make sure that natural need is really overcome or is really helped by your relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ, but also by taking practical steps so that thing does not become a monster in your life. Singles face sexual tensions different from that of married couples. There is a need to discover appropriate, creative, and helpful ways to recognize and relieve the tension. Yes, there is a tension that builds up in you, all right, when there is unfulfilled sexuality, as it could be a long-term reality, okay, a long-term reality. There are 2 aspects of sexuality that should be looked at realistically. This one is where you fill in one word. The first aspect is this: biological sexuality. This is the urge, instinct, and the drive or desire to mate and reproduce, and we should expect never to lose this desire. Now, I said earlier that I have friends who have a grace on them to be single, and that grace is powerful and it is there. But guess what? Urges are still there. Okay, just because the grace is there does not mean that the urges are not there. You will still have to deal with these urges. Many missionaries think that as long as they have this desire, that their dedication to God is lacking or inadequate. This is not true. Can I just say it this way? If you don't have those desires, there's something wrong with you. Okay, if you don't have these urges, then wow, you are a miraculous being. Okay, every person who has that grace, who has that calling on them, will still struggle with this area. Many missionaries ask God to remove this desire, which most likely He will not, as it would make as it would make you, or as it would make one less than human. All right. If you don't have sexual desires, you really are less than human. Now, maybe God would grant that to you. I've talked to some people that claim that God has. Maybe He really has. I don't know. That's never happened for me. So anyway, guys, it is also futile to attempt to feel totally fulfilled. Almost like to brainwash yourself that you're totally fulfilled. Single people who have never mated nor had children can never be fulfilled biologically. One must instead accept these biological urges as an indication that you are a normal human being. Okay, guys, if you've ever met a woman, that is really struggling with the fact that they've never had children, whether they just weren't able to, or they never got married or something like that, it's a real concern. And a lot of marriages break up over this kind of thing. This is something that you really need God's help with, if you are not a person that God is going to bless with children of your own. Okay, or even if you make a decision to not have children of your own, there still is that urge, especially for ladies, to have children of your own. All right? One must continue to trust God's overall plan for his or her life. This does not mean that you just sort of sit there and wait for God to drop your spouse from heaven. Trusting God is the ability to wait without doubt, fear, or frustration. Guard yourself and make wise decisions regarding your biological desires. They are strong, and placing yourself in unwise situations may bring you to places you never thought you would go. Once again, digest that. Think about that for a minute, okay? Make sure that you are not placing yourself in unwise situations, because you may end up going places where you thought you would never go, just because those desires are very strong. Number 2, and you're going to write this in, the second aspect of sexuality is creative sexuality. This is the aspect of the sex drive that is expressed in several different ways: care of children, service, maintenance of good personal relationships, work, and many other things. These are related to the sex drive, okay? This creative energy is reduced when a single person uses a lot of energy in resenting their singleness. The reality is that this creative energy holds abundant possibilities for personal fulfillment. So guys, people that are angry or frustrated that they're single, okay, because maybe they haven't embraced it, or maybe they are fighting it, I'm not saying that it's God's will or not God's will for them. I'm just saying if they spend a lot of time resenting it, even if it's just a season, my goodness, they're just wasting creative energy in abundance. Think about it this way. If you wanted to have a kid of your own, but you don't have a kid of your own, guess what? You can be an incredible resource for the kingdom of God to go and minister to children. And that can actually fulfill some of your creative sexual needs. Okay? So, don't waste your time being angry. Don't waste your time being bitter. Don't waste your time being frustrated. Loneliness and romance. Matters of the heart are tricky in every culture, but become doubly so when multiple cultures are involved. Great care and thought needs to be given to this idea. There are some fabulous cross-cultural marriages, and there are also many that have ended in disaster. In most cases, there are two issues to wrestle with regarding marriage and missions work. And guys, I would have to tell you, in my experience of what I have seen, a cross-cultural marriage is usually wonderful or terrible. Okay, there's very few that are somewhere in between. Okay, so if you are going to marry cross-culturally, you better make sure that it is someone that is a very good decision for you, and you better make sure that you go in with your eyes wide open, knowing the challenges and the difficulties that are going to come in a cross-cultural marriage. Okay, and you are talking to someone who is cross-culturally married, and I completely love it and I completely recommend it. But I also completely would only recommend it for certain people, and I believe that certain other people probably should not do it, okay? It is very much personality oriented, and you need to make sure that you are wise. You need to make sure that you're getting counsel if you're going to be looking at a cross-cultural marriage, okay? One, if you are a single woman, you will find out quickly that there are very few men from one's home culture, and therefore marriage opportunities drop dramatically. That is speaking about on the mission field, okay? If you're an American and you're in Paraguay, how many single Americans are you going to find in Paraguay, okay? It's just really that way, especially if you're someone that you feel like you're supposed to marry someone from your own culture. Dealing with disappointment and the stress of remaining single can be overwhelming at times. Number two, if one desires to be married, there is usually ample opportunity in a cross-cultural setting, okay? And that is opportunity to marry someone from the culture where you are stationed, which would mean someone not from your own culture. Cross-cultural relationships are usually quite a bit more difficult than same-culture marriages. Thinking of marrying someone from another culture? Taken from Bill and Carol O'Hara, okay? And this is evidently a work that was written in 2002, O'Hara and O'Hara. Cross-cultural marriages offer significant advantages and disadvantages, okay? On the one side, there's a question. Are you willing for your children to really not know your parents? Marrying someone from another culture means that one of you will be living outside of your home nation permanently, which means your children will see very little of one set of the grandparents, okay? One set or the other set, okay? The next question is this. Are you willing for your family members to not be able to communicate well with your children? And then the answer is this. Not only will your children not have the opportunity to know one set of grandparents very well, if there is a language barrier, one set of grandparents will not really even be able to communicate very well with your children. Okay, the next question is this. Are you willing to take the time to explain why something is funny to you? Are you ready to just accept the fact that you will not be able to share each other's humor? And you know what, guys? In my case, my wife and I, we have very similar, humor. We have very similar, ideas of what is funny and what is not funny. Although every now and then, and my wife is sitting right over here, okay, every now and then she will think something's funny that I really don't think is very funny. And sometimes I will think something is funny and she just absolutely, even after I've explained it a couple times, she just really doesn't get why it's that funny, This is a real thing. And our case of it is mild. There are other cultures where it is really a much more pronounced difference, okay? So marrying someone from another culture means that you will have a hard time understanding each other's humor, okay? It will happen from time to time. Are you willing for your children to grow up with a different set of family traditions than your own? And here's the answer. Marrying someone from another culture means that one of you must be willing not to give your children the cultural traditions and national heritage that you have. Now, I'm not totally in agreement with this, okay? Because I believe that you can take the best from both cultures, and I believe that even if you're marrying someone from the same culture, every family has a different culture. And when you come together in marriage, one of the things that you're going to do is you're going to create your own family culture. It's going to become unique anyway, okay? But it is a consideration. All right, next one is this. Are you willing to live in your spouse's country indefinitely? You need to be aware that the day may come when you may need to move to your spouse's home country, okay? And this is a reality that many people face, you know? Sometimes people get married and they thought that they were going to be on the mission field until they die or retire. But, you know, things changed and they ended up having to go back to America or something like that, okay? You know, or maybe they got assigned to a country that is neither of their country. You know, I know a couple where the husband is American and the wife is Filipino, and they thought they were going to be in the Philippines forever. They're in Africa now. Okay. So, you know, these things are really all up to the Lord. And you have to have a willingness in your spirit. Okay. Are you willing to lose your place in society? All right. You may need to consider that the socioeconomic class one holds in one's culture may not cross over in another culture. And again, guys, this is not only true overseas, but it's even true here in America. I mean, can you imagine if you were from Oregon or from Washington State and you uprooted your family and you moved to Boston, okay? Are you going to have the same place in Boston society as you enjoyed in Portland society? It might take you years, okay, to become accepted in Boston society as compared to Portland society. I mean, think about it this way. If you change churches, guess what? You're not immediately going to be on the worship team anymore. You're not immediately going to be thought of as a leader anymore. There's going to be even some suspicion on you for at least a year or 2 years or even 3 years before you really start to feel more than just like a potted plant, you know, actually grounded in that new environment, okay? All right, the next one is this. Are you willing for your children to grow up with gender role models that you do not approve of? Growing up in another culture means that the gender role models for your children may not be what you could consider to be good role models. I really don't have time to go into this, guys, but I find this to be true in literally every culture. There are role models that you really may not agree with. You know, there's one country that I go to that the men eat first, and the women eat second, and the children eat third, and they don't eat together. And it is men, and then women, and then if there's any food left, children. I'm not kidding. Okay. You know, there are other places where the women are dominant. Okay. There are countries where the women are the ones who run the finances of the house and the men don't. And the men get an allowance from the wife. Okay. So there are some things that you have to consider when it comes to gender role models. All right. Next one is this. Have you considered that the home court advantage may affect your marriage relationship? You may need to consider the effect of the home court advantage on your marriage. If a foreign man marries an American woman and they live in the United States, she would be cast in the relationship rule in some aspects of their relationship. Whereas if they lived in his nation, he would be able to lead out more effectively in their marriage, okay? You know, just think about this a little bit, you know? If the man ends up in the wife's country, you know, she's going to have some sort of an advantage. But if the wife ends up in the husband's country, he's going to have some sort of an advantage. And it's even going to be about perceptions, what other people see and what other people perceive. All right. If you are the woman in the marriage, have you considered how your husband's worldview from his cultural upbringing regarding women would affect you? Okay, a lot of cultures really view the relationship between men and women quite differently than what you do in your home culture. Okay, when marrying into another culture, the woman should consider the overall basic attitude toward women, as more than likely at least some of those ideas will be present in the marriage, even if they are unbiblical ideas. Now, guys, you know, for me, I believe that marriage is an equal partnership, although I do believe that the man has the final say. However, I also believe that the man should also be running things by his wife, his spouse, and he should be valuing her opinion, and they should be discussing things because it is a partnership. And if the man actually has to make a decision which is not what the wife would have wanted, it should actually pain him. okay? Because he should want to honor the wife's input, okay? So that's the way that I look at it. But everybody needs to talk about this in their relationship before proceeding into marriage to find out what the deal is going to be in your relationship. So guys, this is where I'm going to stop teaching, but you guys need to continue by reading the 2 articles below that are connected to these notes. One of them is from a lady named Susan. She was a single missionary, probably still is, okay? And then the other article is from a man named Kevin, who was a single missionary, evidently in Manila, which is where I am a missionary, okay? In light of everything that we've discussed today, read these 2 articles, and I do believe that you are supposed to write somewhere how you feel and how you think about these articles. Make sure that you stimulate your thought process with these articles. God bless you guys. Let me pray for you. Father, I just thank you for the students in this class. I thank you, Lord, for this very, very important subject. Father, I just pray that you will really lead and guide every single one of us individually, because you know what the future holds. You know every single person in this class that is going to be married to someone from their own culture. You know the ones that are going to be married to someone from a different culture, and you know the ones that are going to remain single, whether it's for a season or even for a lifetime. Father, I pray that in these developmental years, Lord, in Bible college, and if anyone else even happens to see this teaching online, Father, I just pray that you will lead and guide and prepare and put that grace, put those desires on each and every person exactly for what is going to happen, exactly for what needs to happen. Father, I bless everyone. I cancel every assignment of the enemy right now. I cancel distractions in the mighty name of Jesus. I pray a hedge of protection of health and even a hedge of protection over finances, over every single one, Lord. I pray that there would be no accidents, no mistakes, no errors. Lord, there would be no emergencies that rob us, because we know that the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. But you have come to give us life, and life more abundantly. I pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. God bless you guys. I'll see you by video for the next course. Bye.